Fr.TED Talks, and today we'll be talking about soulmates. So today I'm very happy to be here with Dr. Al Rossi. Dr. Al, what's your position here at St. Vladimir's?
I've had a whole bunch of positions, including Director of the Doctor of Ministry in the past. But now I'm Director of Counseling and Psychological Services here at the Seminary.
Great, and we've known each other for quite some time, actually.
We go way back.
Yeah, I used to study here at St. Vlad's back in 2004, 2006, and Al was here, and we got to know each other while I was doing my master's here, so it's really wonderful to be back.
And I admit that I had you out as a student.
Yes, it's true. He does admit that, yeah. I hope I do you proud. So
you do, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. So the question today is, the question that was sent to our Gmail account is, they asked us, Father, how do Orthodox find a mate? How do we find a significant other? How do we find somebody that we can spend our lives with? Is there any criteria? And so Dr. Rossi here has done many seminars on family counseling, on marriage, on relationships. I even had you come up once to Canada. You spoke to our clergy once about this. And so I'm interested to hear your thoughts about, this person who's asking us this question, what do we look for?
Great question. From the Orthodox perspective, we begin at the beginning with Christ. Christ is everything. He gives us our eyes at work and our breath, and gives us life and a potential mate, if that's my state of life and that's what I'm looking for. So, again, at the foundation, in every kind of relationship, whether it's courting or looking for courtship or marriage, there are three persons in the relationship. There's me, a male, and a female, and Christ. That said, for the person who's looking for a mate, I'm of an age and I really would like to be married, there's a lot to say about the difference between females and females, and maybe I'll say a bit about that later, but for now, when one asks Orthodox and non-Orthodox across the board, what is it you're looking for? What do you want to find? 85% of all persons, male and female, Christian, non-Christian in the United States, use the same single word, which is the title of this little video podcast, soulmate. I'm looking for a soulmate. I want to find a soulmate. Where's there a soulmate around here? And short version, my own impression of that word soulmate is that it's a dangerous word. It's dangerous because it is I who am deciding how you will fit in my life. So I say, okay, I know my filter system. I want a woman who's shorter than 7 feet and taller than 3 feet, who's got an IQ higher than 57 and lower than 205, and within this age range and so on. So once I have those filters in place, then I go looking. Perhaps I get it down to 4 people. Okay, there are 4 women who might fit my criteria for soulmate. So I take all 4 out for a dinner and decide, look at that, Sarah is the woman. I'm going to court her, I'm going to marry her. The whole time it is I who am finding and filtering Sarah into my life by my criteria. So I court her and then we marry. Then what? You know what? After a short while, 6 months or 18 months, I discover, hey, Sarah isn't the soulmate I thought she was. Whatever my criteria were, that's not her. Now I got a problem because I defined you into my life according to my standards. And, in America we have 51% of marriages end in divorce. That's the prime reason, expectations. What is it I expect from marriage and from my mate? And if I start with the wrong expectations, this person's going to satisfy me, I'm in for a big wake-up call.
That's really interesting that you said that, Dr. Rossi, because the idea of defining people, of having criteria. A lot of people ask me, Father, should I be on dating sites? And I really don't like them because I always tell people, you're really gonna let a computer algorithm, match you up with the person you're gonna be with for the rest of your life and in eternity. This idea that, you're gonna go fill out a personality test and the computer is gonna match you up with somebody who is like you. I think that's very narcissistic. It sounds narcissistic. Mind you, there are exceptions to the rule. I know some people who have found wonderful people and Orthodox Christians. There's even like Orthodox singles websites that try to do that, and sometimes they work, but generally speaking, it's this idea, like you said, of putting our filters on. And I was reminded when you were saying that about when I met my wife, Joanna, and we were dating for 7 years before we even got married. Now we just had our 10th anniversary a few days ago, so 17 years together. And I remember just the first date, I laid it all out. I just said, listen, because I was right out of high school, and I was going into seminary, and I told her, I said, just so you know, I'm going to seminary, I'm probably going to become a priest. That's a difficult life. It's a difficult life for a presbytera, for a priest's wife, and I'll take no offense if you tell me that that's not for you. But I'm laying it all out there the first date because I really don't see the point in continuing a relationship with somebody I'm not going to marry. And some people say, wow, that's very aggressive and that's very forward. But I said, well, I might as well put myself out there and see who God sends me. Because I think if you put on the masks, as we all do, to a certain degree, all of us, even myself to this day, we always are afraid of people judging us and not loving us, and the main fears of humanity. But if we're not authentic from the beginning, then chances are in our marriage, where real intimacy, or sometimes we approach real intimacy, it's scary. It's very, very scary. So I think this person, though, who was asking us this question today, would ask also the question, well, if we don't have soulmates, like you said, you don't like that term, what is our Orthodox equivalent?
And what we have is sandpaper, coarse or fine sandpaper, that is given to us by God, so this other person actually rubs me into the person who can love more. I mean, that's the whole purpose of life. I'm alive and you're alive. To learn how to be, quote, happy, and I can only do that to the extent that I learn to love. Go out of myself, I love others, and then I find, oh my golly, it's a good way to go. I like my life. So my mate, living with me in partnership, is my purification, my sandpapering into my best self, my loving self, which is another way of saying, into Jesus Christ I live now, not I, but Christ lives in me. And that person is going to do that. She can give me her best shot and still be my sandpaper. She can love me to the full extent that she's possible. And I might find, difficulties with that. I will. We're human beings. And the essence of love is commitment. So commitment means I am with you the rest of my life, come what may. That's my belief of what God, Christ wants of me, and that's what I intend to do. That said, we ask the basic question, what's the purpose of dating? Dating, especially for those in college or high school, is not just fun and games. It's not just socializing. No. The purpose of dating is to find a mate. A woman said to me one time, she was looking for a man who loved God more than her. And in her case, by that search, she found such a man and married him, and life went on, and she's a happy camper. So we get our expectations straight, but I would also just say for those not married but wanting to be married, it's very important to know that at that stage there's just a lot of delusion.
Yes.
I mean, there's just a lot of...
We're young people still.
Young people.
We found ourselves.
Yeah, and we can't help but be that way. That said, one thing that's very helpful is to know whatever I am seeing in this other person, if I decide and agree we will marry, then whatever fine traits, virtues I see, they'll expand. And whatever negative traits I see, they will expand.
Yes.
And that's contrary to what most courting couples think. They think the good's going to get gooder and the bad's going to get less. And that just doesn't happen. That's why it's sandpaper, because the bad expands as much as the good. So I would simply say there are great differences between males and females from the initial investment, generally. And generally, females are much more invested in the possibility of deep love and long-term relationship than the male. Now, of course, that can vary, but generally, now, for example, if an eligible man and an eligible young woman go to Starbucks for coffee and then they leave, and then we say to them, okay, see them separately. What did you think of Joe? What did you think of Sarah? Get a totally different response. Joe will say, she's nice. Sarah will be la 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 la.
Yes.
And they both better know that, because that's the way it goes. I recall when I met my wife at a wedding, she was singing. And, and we danced, and I got her phone number and called her, I don't know, 10 days later or so. And then later I found out that she actually sat and looked at the telephone waiting for it to ring. I said, honey, it doesn't help to look at the telephone. That doesn't make it ring. For me, I thought I was being magnanimous by calling her 10 days. It's like, because I was dating someone else at the time, not seriously, and met this lovely young woman and called her. So it's just important to know that women are radically different than men in every way, but especially psychologically, and that they initially, and certainly during the full courtship and the planning of the wedding and so on, are much more intrigued and deep and insightful about what's occurring and what's going to occur than the guy. Mm-hmm. The guy is usually cooperating and doing the best he can.
Living more in the moment, you would say?
That's right. I certainly would say that, living more in the moment. So I'd simply end by saying it's all about Christ, and it is important to know that Christ will send my mate. It's not for me to go scouting around. One high school student said to me that it's like a science experiment. You have to go like a lot of experiments until you finally find the right person. No, Christ will send the person he wants in his due time, whether it's early or later. So it's a matter of faith.
Yeah, when I do weddings, a lot of times, like at the wedding service, when I speak a little bit at the end, I actually tell people that the crowns that we put on people, they symbolize death. Death. And people freak out, and I make a joke of it a little bit. And I say, those of you who've been married 40 years, the marriage is death, right? And they laugh. But the reality is that from an Orthodox point of view, we have a very different perception of what love is. It's self-sacrifice. It's Christ on the cross. And so when we go to seek a mate, we have to have that in our mind. It has to be formed within us from a young age. It's not, unfortunately, for many people, even Orthodox Christians. And so we go with the wrong presuppositions. We look for soulmates. We look for people who are going to make us happy in the sense that they're going to fulfill us as opposed to us serving them. And so we kind of have the wrong criteria when we set it up. Again, it's those filters that you were talking about, which are worldly filters, not Orthodox filters. It would be good to have Orthodox filters, or an Orthodox lens, which is the crucifixion, the resurrection, to be able to view. And so I think we have to shift our whole way of looking at relationships. And like you just said, trial and error. Some people say you have to date a lot of different people. Well, that can actually become damaging, psychologically speaking. Because in this idea of objectifying women or objectifying men, or objectifying sex, or objectifying dating, or anything that we do, we make them just into things, trial and error, as opposed to something sacred.
Yes.
And so I try to tell that to our young people, but even people of all ages who are seeking relationships from an Orthodox point of view. And it's a difficult task, especially in our day and age, in the society that we live in, where everything is objectified.
Yeah.
And everything is trivialized, I think.
I loved your word sacred.
Yeah,
it needs to be sacred, in Christ, sacred.
Yes. So one's mate should be one's sandpaper, sacred sandpaper.
Sacred sandpaper. and we're grateful for the imperfections in our mate, whether it's in courtship or in marriage, because those imperfections are what are helping us to become patient and loving and compassionate and kind.
Yeah, to practice the virtues.
Practice the virtues.
If we just had another version of ourselves, we would just become even more narcissistic.
Yeah.
We might as well just marry a mirror. Right?
That's right, marry a mirror.
Well, Dr. Rossi, thank you so much for being on Fr.TED Talks and for speaking about this from your many, many years of experience. And we hope to have you on again in the future.
Oh, I'd love it.
And God bless all of you. This is Fr.TED for Fr.TED Talks, asking you to like and subscribe and to tune in every week for the next upcoming question. God bless you.